Hey everyone, today I'm going to be splicing a Bluemoon rope from Yale cordage. It's a double braid climbing line, 11.5 millimeters or something like that. And this particular line is going to be an eye-to-eye lanyard. So there's an eye on one end, you can see that here, and it's about 30 feet long, and this is the other end. So the very first thing I did was milk the cover several times, and that gave me this section. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see where it tapers down right here, but when I fold it you can tell that there's about 5 or 6 inches of cover that was milked off. So the very first thing we'll do is get rid of that extra, the extra cover. And let's go ahead and get started here. So, step number 1, at about 10.5 inches, we're going to put a Sharpie line going all the way around. Let's use the darker marker here. Much better. We'll make this line go all the way around so it's easy to see. And then after that, I like to pop the core out. Oh, hold on one second. I always forget to do this, but we need to tie a loop knot. And I like to cinch, this is the alpine butterfly knot. I like to cinch it down really tight so that this loop sort of pinches down on the cover and core. So we'll need that in a little bit, but let's go back to the splice. So I'm going to pull the core out, and this part isn't necessary, but I recommend when you're just starting to tape the end of the cover, the end of the core, so it doesn't fall apart on you while you're trying to do the next few steps. And then you're going to go down about 3.5 inches. You'll determine. You will have already put a mark where the other end of your eye is. I know for me, that will be right here, and I will use the awl to nudge aside some of these strands, and then I should be able to get under there. And taking special care to not pull out individual core strands, I'm going to try to pop the whole core out in one piece, just like that. And of course we'll have to take the tape off. And then I'm going to put that tape right back on. Okay, now the next step is to zero out the cover and the core. So I'm not sure if this is going to work. I normally don't do it like this, but since the camera is here, I'll try to pull towards the camera, and the core will suck back in. So let's do that 2 or 3 times to make sure we get the core sucked all the way back in. Go one more. Alright, so that should do it. Hang this back up. Now at this point I like to stick the awl right where the core is coming out, and then I'll pull out a whole bunch of core. Grab a marker again, and I will measure from where the awl is. That was our exit point. And I'm going to go down 3.5 inches. And if you want to know why 3.5 inches, why 10.5 inches on the beginning measurement, I encourage you to hop on Yale Cordage's website, briantoss.com, or Samson's website, New England Ropes, and any of the myriad of websites that will explain to you the directions. I'm just showing you the little steps that I take while I do it. So we've got the core marked. That's going to be our crossover point. We'll learn about that in a little bit. Now it is time to bury the core. I'll be using the Brian Toss splicing wand today. You could just as easily use the bent wire fid, and it would work very much the same way. So from the exit point right here, I'm going to measure down about 6 inches and insert the tip of the wand on the opposite side of where the core exits. So on this side, I'll enter right here. And this measurement does not have to be exact. If you go an extra half an inch, that will be just fine. I insert the tip of the wand, run it up along the core. Here's my mark right here. I'm pretty sure you can't see it, but there's the tip of the wand is currently at the mark. Before I go any further, you're always going to do a pull test on the core to make sure that it slides freely. If it gets snagged, that means that the tip of the wand or your wire fid has hooked through the core, and you would have to pull back until the core slides freely and then proceed to make sure that the core is sliding smoothly alongside your fid rather than snagging it. Now I'm going to pull the tip of the fid out on the same side as the core, approximately an inch from where our original first mark on the core was. Attach the tip of the core to your fid. If this is a wire fid, you just stick a little bit in there. And with the Brian Toss, you only have to stick half the strands, and then you can cut off that last little tail, and it'll actually make it a little easier. I flip it towards me, then working at the tip of the fid, pull the core through. If it presses with you, you can just pull on it. If it's resisting you, pull a little bit more core out. That'll give you a little more slack inside here. It should pop out relatively easily. And again, you don't have to do this tape right here, but it's good for beginners to do. Okay, next step is to mark the taper on the cover. So to do that, I'm going to grab a gold marker here, because if I have to mark the black strands, a black Sharpie does not show up very well, so the gold one will. And go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. Alright, so I've marked half of the strands. It's a 24 strand cover. I've marked 12 of those strands. And now I will go ahead and pull those strands out. After you've gotten a few of them out, you can pinch down above it and just pull the fid, or excuse me, pull the awl, and they'll come right out. It is important that you do not allow the pulling of the strands to distort the rest of the rope. Okay, when you're done, I like to hang it up like so and count that you've actually pulled out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 strands. So we did pull them all out, and now you can go ahead and cut them off right next to the remaining cover tail. At this point, it is time to bury this tail into the core. So let's bring our wand back, and now we're going to go down about 10 inches and a little more, so maybe 15 inches. Insert the tip of the wand, bunch up the core, and then bring the tip of the wand out, right at right at the mark that we made on the core. Doesn't want to come out nice and clean. There we go. So the wand comes out right there, right at that mark. We will release the snare, grab the cover tail, and then very gently, because the core strands are very easy to snag and pull out of position, so we're very carefully going to work to pull the core over. Oh, really good example. I just snagged one right there. Alright, there we go. Okay, now we'll pull the core tail and the cover tail against each other to bunch up the crossover. So at this point, we are now done with the wand, and I'm going to pull against really tough to really seat that crossover together. And before we go any further, I'm going to taper the rest of the cover tail just by pulling out random strands, approximately one every, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or so. Just working my way down as I go. I like a long, smooth taper. It does a lot to improve the feel and the strength of your finished product. That goes there. Whoops. Alrighty, at this point, we can we can zero out the core. And I'm going to hold this crossover and pull against the core where it's coming through the eye and the throat of the splice. And then once that is done, I recommend that you grab a piece of whipping twine and stitch that crossover with 5 or 6 stitches to keep it together while you're getting through the next few stages of your splice. After you do a bunch of these and you have the routine down and you know exactly which next steps are to come, you'll find that this stage isn't essential, but especially for beginner splicers, I found that taking a minute to add a few stitches will help for 2 reasons. It keeps the cover and core from slipping apart at the crossover, and also you might notice that it has pinched down the crossover. When we start doing the splice, you'll see, when we start burying the splice at the end, you will see that the crossover is the hardest part to get inside. So by stitching it, you can compress it a little bit and it'll go in a little bit easier. So you can sort of see the formation of our eye here. This is the throat of the splice. This is going to be our eye after we bury all of this back inside. And we're about to get rid of this guy right here. So to do that, hold the crossover very firmly and zero out the throat of the splice. By zero out, I mean you're going to pull hard on the crossover and milk away from the crossover towards the throat of the splice. And that will suck in as much of the core tail as can be sucked in. Once that is done, you're going to mark where the core tail exits the throat of the splice. So there's our core exit point. You pull that out, cut it off just shy of the mark, and then you're going to taper these last 2 or 3, this might be 4 inches right here, and do it just like we tapered the blue cover tail, just by randomly cutting a few strands here or there, working your way down and thinning out that tail. When you get to those last 2 inches, just fan it out and cut it off like so. You want it to be nice and smooth so that your splice doesn't feel clunky when you get done with it. So once you've made your taper, hold the crossover one last time, and you're going to milk it again so that the core tail sucks completely inside the throat of the splice. I got a little bit left. There we go. That takes care of that. And at this point, you will need a very, very strong anchor